right, friends, I am so excited. Welcome to My Life's Purpose podcast. We're super thrilled to have Stacy Snively. I call you a best friend of mine, the queen of Airbnbs, the queen of Zionsville. Like, woman, you rock it on the golf course with your kids, basketball, football, everything. So just let's start off by tell us about you.
Oh, wow. I know. Let's see. I've been in real estate for 9 years. Mm-hmm. Yes, I started when my daughter went to kindergarten. I have 3 kids, almost 18, 16, and 14.
Yes. They all play sports.
They all play sports, basketball and baseball, and then golf.
Yes. And y'all, Stacy is one of the most competitive individuals I've ever really known. I mean, you're in the top 3 for sure. Have you always been that way?
Yes, I think competitive, like, with
Winning.
other people, but also with myself. I think I'm pretty, like, hard on myself. So, yes, it's, like, a competitive, like, yes. Okay. That's why I don't golf.
I love it. All right. So, like, I don't know if you've ever done, like, string finders, but if you were to do string finders, competition would be one of the top ones. Mm-hmm. And so we can talk about that a little bit later. You're also very generous. You're one of the most generous friends that I have. When we first met, which I will always tell the story, and we met in Zionsville, and somehow it came up that you knew the names of people who work at Costco. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's exactly the type of person that I want to be in business with and in friendship with, because names matter. Like, in my life, I feel like every single person matters. Mm-hmm. If you're homeless, if you're serving, if you're the president, like, every single person matters. And the fact that you call them by name and they text you and they love you. And you were like, well, it's easy. I said, how do you keep up with everybody's names? And you're like, it's on their name tag. And I was like, brilliant. And so I don't know if I've ever shared this part with you, but like, from that moment, which was like 2019, fall of 2019,
right.
From that moment, I have been very intentional about engaging with conversation with people who are serving me and I'm serving them. And so that's a gift that you've given me. So, yeah, how did we meet?
How did we meet? You called me?
Yeah, I called you. Yeah.
I actually answered.
Yes. And we met in Zionsville. Do you remember what we did? The future self.
The future self, yes.
Yes.
Which is hard, yeah.
Yeah, it is hard, because then we did another one later. We probably need to do another one. So what, kind of describe from your perspective, what was the future self exercise?
Gosh, I think for me, it is difficult. I am like a live in the moment. I don't plan a whole lot. I'm kind of like spontaneous. So I think looking that far out is hard for me. Like, I can only reference like, okay, my kids will be in this grade or this, that. But like, as far as myself, it's a little bit difficult. But I think, as far as business, I had like goals that I wanted to make, but yeah.
So it was an exercise. Normally we do like 5 years out or 10 years out. And have you ever done an exercise like that?
No.
I know. Isn't it like the biggest gift ever? Because what it does is, like, I ask you questions like, tell me more, Stacy. Like, all right, what do you want in 4 quadrants of your life? You know, business is just one of them, right? And for the longest time, I would focus on business goals and then personal goals.
Right.
And finally, intentionally, I've done personal first, then business, right? But the beautiful thing is the brain can't unknow it.
Right.
So do you remember anything that you articulated on there that you have accomplished or that stuck in your mind?
Oh, gosh. I remember crying.
Yeah, which is good.
Yes.
That's a breakthrough.
I don't know. It's been a minute. COVID happened.
Yeah. Well, it was about cash flow. You talked about passive income and cash flow.
Yeah.
And I still have it, by the way. I should gift it to you, or at least send you a picture of it. So, cash flow. Mm-hmm. Woo! Okay, what is cash flow?
So I, like with my Airbnbs, obviously those are passive. I am involved, but I'm not like, it's not a lot, right?
Yeah. So like, just for somebody, even like my younger self 20 years ago, what is cash flow?
Like, as far as like what you're netting at the end?
Yes. So you're also one of the most business savvy individuals I've ever met. You've helped Habitat for Humanity. How much did you raise for Habitat for Humanity?
We raised just over $1 million.
Over $1 million, girl! Cash flow. Cash flow, mama. Do you remember us talking about how you successfully do a nonprofit event?
Yes.
I mean, you've raised over $1 million. You were in charge of the capital campaign. Yeah. For what's the neighborhood? Hope? No.
Grace Fields.
Okay, Gracefield. I love that name. Yes. All right. So over $1 million you raised over what period of time?
Ooh, right around a year. Like, we decided in January, and it was like more of an intentional ask. Like, I've helped with the fundraisers every year, like in March, where we have like our annual fundraiser. And I think the thing that I learned the most from that is like, okay, at our annual fundraiser, we asked for $100,000.
Yes.
We raised $100,000. Going into last year, it was like, okay, the goal is $1 million, and we've just never asked our donors to give more. And when you ask, it's amazing how much more they give.
I mean, pause. I mean, if there's nothing else that we talk about, Stacey, can you imagine if somebody is listening to this and you've helped other people with their nonprofit fundraisers and things like that? Mm-hmm. Like, what? You went from 100,000 to $1 million in a year?
Right.
That's 10 times.
Right. But I said, we've only asked for a certain amount.
Yes. And so what? I mean, that is huge. Mm-hmm. So you just asked for a different amount.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And people showed up.
People showed up. Mm-hmm.
People showed up. Oh my gosh, it gets me so excited. I get more excited about that than I even do the cash flow, but I get real excited about the cash flow. All right, so 2019, we get in business together.
Right.
You join the real estate brokerage that I own, and we have some fun, and I put you on the leadership, the board of directors. And that was kind of, I needed that, right? Because you're such a rock star, and I knew that you needed that friendship group, and we're still close friends with the leaders in that group from that year. And COVID happened. Mm-hmm. And do you remember that leadership group and how we freaked out?
Yes.
Like, we thought the world was ending, as most people did. And then what happened? Do you remember?
I mean, we were supporting each other, and it was like pushing each other. And then, of course, real estate blew up instead of it all shrinking like we thought it would.
Yes. I mean, that group, that will be like a forever friendship group.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like a sorority on steroids or something, or fraternity. Like, so we texted that group for everything mindset related, all times of the day, accountability, lead generating, push-ups. I mean, it was all together. And you did something exceptionally brave. What did you do?
I purchased a large property.
Tell us more.
So my kids, we've been doing travel sports for years, and so we were out at Grand Park all the time, or traveling to other communities, and it was always like, okay, we were in a hotel room, you're kind of stuck there, you had a lot of kids running around. So I was like, what if we had a property where when these teams come in, that they would have room to spread out, they could run around, the kids, whatever. So I found a property like at 191st and Spring Mill, right next to Grand Park. It had been on the market for 3 years. So like in today's realm, like the fact that something would even sit that long, like right next to Grand Park. 6 acres.
Unbelievable. I mean, anything that's on the market that 3 years.
Yeah. And it was like, it needed some love. Don't get me wrong. But again, it was 6 acres for $480,000, like right next to Grand Park.
6 acres, $480,000, and it had been sitting on the market for 3 years.
Yes. And it has a big old barn and then a ranch house. Mm-hmm.
And so did you have people that were negative about you purchasing it? Did you have any naysayers? I mean, your parents own Airbnbs, and your brother owns Airbnbs. And I mean, we've even hung out and danced in your parents' party barn, right? Like, so I was thinking about that this morning. I'm like, this is all happening for a reason.
Right.
And like the way that you were brought up and your family, and they're such entrepreneurs and business owners that you were like primed for this property. Mm-hmm. And the property was primed for you. Right. I mean, keep going.
Okay, so yes, as far as naysayers, I think there were people that were kind of like, of course it was COVID, but I needed a project because I need to keep myself busy. And so like this was going to be a project.
Yeah, and you sold an incredible amount of real estate too.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like this was your only project.
Right.
You have like fundraisers on Monday night, sports every night, project, trailers. Yeah, for the barn. Okay,
Right.
keep going.
Yeah. So I talked my people into getting this property.
Yes.
And started right away, actually. Like the house, we just needed to paint and furnish. So I got that one up and running like within a couple of months and started renting it out right away. And then worked on the barn over the course of like that winter into 21. And it went on like Airbnb like early 21. So now the crazy part is in my brain, like looking at the property, I was like, oh, this is going to be for sports families and like all these kids. And like I should put batting cages in. And then as soon as I got up on Airbnb, I was inundated with, can I have a graduation party? And can I have a reception dinner? And can I have this and that and the other? So like it kind of evolved as far as like what it like was used for. But it was also like 21 was still like COVID-ish.
I mean, you even had like celebrations of life and people that were terminally ill like come out. Like it was more than just it was a gift.
Yes. Families that like wanted to get together, like family reunions, and they were like, oh, well, we could come here and like be together and not be in public, right?
Yeah, it was like a beacon.
It was.
I mean, and there was all this emotion tied up to it too, but you really provided a place and you treated people that came. I mean, it's the same thing of that France. You have this gift of like loving on people and the hospitality. All right, we didn't answer the cash flow question. So when we talk about cash flow, so how do you remember? I mean, I remember you telling me some of these months, right, that this property was bringing in.
Right.
Do you remember some of your big cash flow months?
So the timeout probably because we started renting it by the weekend and I would get like $5,500 if they were having like more than just the normal people staying there. So like probably like $15,000 to $20,000 in a month. But over time I've learned with that property, it was very seasonal, right? So it wasn't as profitable in the winter, but like the summers I would kill it.
I mean, I remember one month that you had brought in after expenses $30,000. I mean, what? Like huge. And you named it Time Out, and golly, I've even had parties there and things like that. So any idea on how much, because you've sold it, and we're going to talk about that because that number is going to, if you're driving, like, just get ready. That number is phenomenal. All right. But let's talk about the cash flow. So at the P&L for this particular property, after expenses, do you have any idea, like, what your profit was?
After I sold it?
After you sold it, or even while it was...
Oh, while it was going. I mean, gosh, I'd have to go back and look. The numbers, I would say net was like my best year was probably about $50,000.
Yeah.
Net, as far as like, because it was a big property, I had a lot of overhead expenses because it was two properties. It's like the barn and the house. And I had, mowing and, and a lot of maintenance.
Yes.
So, and that's kind of what led me partly to sell it.
Yeah.
It paid for itself every year. It was a great investment. But at the end of the day, when the market has been so hot, it was time to sell it.
So, to date, and I so appreciate, one thing about Stacy is she will share. Like, she will tell you. Like, there's nothing that she's going to hide if it benefits somebody else. So the goal, friends, is that you benefit from your thinking. I mean, we've already benefited from, like, ask 10 times. I mean, ask 10 times and you got the results. That's huge. But how much, Stacy, in profit when you closed this bad boy?
We profited $500,000.
$500,000.
And it was timing. I mean, I saw a property and it was 2020. So we made $500,000 in 4 years. And that is not including the fact that every year it made money too. So not only
more than that.
Right.
It's 1.5.
Right. So like it made money every year, but it also, like, when I sold it, it was $500,000. So we had 480. I put about 120 into it to make it
Yes.
Especially the barn. We renovated the barn extensively. So
Yes.
put about 120, so I had about 600 into it, sold it for 1.1.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
So,
All right.
yes.
So then that property gave you confidence to do another one. So kind of walk us through that one.
So we have I have the timeout, which was a sign that my mom had found at an antique store, and it seemed to fit perfectly being right next to Grand Park.
I didn't realize your mama. I love your mom.
She was at an antique store, and she calls me. She's like, I found this big sign. And I was like, oh my God, we just named the property.
Yes.
So we got the sign. So that was the timeout. So then I bought the one in Zionsville next. The two were very close together. So then I bought the one in Zionsville it would have been in November of 21. It was $250,000.
You named it.
I named it.
You name them all.
I do.
Yep.
This one's called Live on Oak, and live means like shelter or harbor. So I thought it was and it's on Oak Street. So that's kind of how we came up with the name. So it was Live on Oak, and we of course had to do a logo and all the things. I love the marketing side of all of it.
You are so talented in so many different aspects of real estate and design. I didn't realize your mom loved antiques. That's part of her legacy. You love those.
I do love antiques.
Okay,
for sure.
so we had Time Out. Then you had Live on Oak, and then you had
the
kind
Overtime.
of a play. Yeah,
Yes.
the other. What was it called?
Overtime.
Overtime.
Stick with the theme.
Competitive. I love it. All right. Yeah. Tell us about Overtime.
So it is at Grand Park, and it's different because it's a smaller property, and it probably we paid $325 fully furnished, and I didn't do really anything. The only thing I've done in that one is replace the furnace. Other than that, it is pretty much a well-oiled machine, but it sleeps 16. And that is one of the things in the Airbnb. It's all about the beds. How many
let's
you
talk
can
about
sleep.
that because you grew up on a property that sleeps how many?
Oh
In
gosh.
the barn that we went to.
I mean the whole between my parents'
properties?
Airbnbs and my brothers. I mean we can
Yes.
sleep 65 people now.
65 people, you guys. I mean, I walked up to this barn and I was like, "There's 12 beds up here. It's amazing."
It is.
I
My
mean,
parents have
y'all
built
know how
quite
to,
the
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legacy stuff. Okay, so back to time.
Overtime.
Overtime. Okay. So back to Overtime. So walk us through. It sleeps how many again?
16.
Okay, and why is that important?
Well, you think about if you're deciding between a hotel and an Airbnb, a lot of times comes down to money, right? And the ability to have a kitchen and whatever. But, for 16 people, and again, it's usually 2 or 3 sets of parents and then a whole bunch of kids, right? We have a bunk room.
Yes.
But the money makes sense. So for during the week, I think I'm around $500, and the weekend it's $650. But to sleep 16 people, right?
Makes
you can't.
total sense.
It makes sense.
And then people they Venmo each other and they figure it out.
They figure it
all that kind
out
of
and
stuff.
whatever. But yeah, so that property, I had an investor one time tell me you should at least 1% of the total purchase price. So if it's $300,000, right?
Yeah.
You want to get
the 1% roll.
$3,000 a month. So this one gets I make about $30,000 on this property. But again, I've not put a dime into it, and it's right next to Grand Park, and it just kind of does its own thing.
Yeah.
So it's really just maintaining the cleaning ladies.
Yes. So cash flow is money that comes in with very little effort, right? And I used to when I tracked net worth, I used to track it on paper. And it's all of your assets minus your liability equals your net worth. And then I had this huge epiphany, and I'm for me, yes, it's a helpful tool, and yet that tool is all about ego.
Right.
Right? The cash flow tool is actually money coming in. And so when your cash flow is greater than your expenses, then you're really financially free.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So and now I sold the timeout.
Yep.
So I still have Live in Zionsville and then I have the Overtime. So between the two of them, I can just passively make about $80,000 a year, and it's not it's not that much work.
Yeah. And you know how to do it again.
Right.
Like that's
Right.
the most amazing thing is you know how to like do it again and again. You've sold like what's your average year in real estate? I mean, you help a
gosh.
lot of people.
Yeah. This year, I think my average was right around $1 million. We had some crazy numbers this year. So,
Yeah, that's
right.
great.
Right.
Huge. Okay, good. What else? What else have you learned about yourself with the properties?
But the properties, well, I think one of the cool things in the timeout proved that too, and especially in Live. But like, not only are you cash flowing like monthly,
sure.
right? But it's just the appreciation of those properties, right?
Yes.
So like Live, like I bought it for $250, put about $300,000 into it, but I took it down to the studs. So
And you love.
I love my house.
Like
It's my baby.
It
It's
is
my
your baby.
It is.
Time Out was the first baby, but
Yes.
this is the real baby.
Yeah,
This
yes.
is the luxury. Like, so who books that?
Oh gosh, a variety of people.
Okay.
I mean, like people coming in for weddings. I get a lot of that, but I just had like a family of 3 in there for 20 days. They paid over $7,000, and they're in between houses. Like they're literally like they're building. They just sold a house and they're building, and so like I don't know. People will splurge. Like
Yes.
it's kind of mind blowing, but it's. You know, I get all the time, like, people ask me, like, oh, will you rent it for, like, 3 months or 6 months? But the numbers just don't make sense, right? Like, I can make so much more money by renting it by, like, the day or the week or whatever
Yes.
than, like, me, like, because nobody wants to pay, like, you know, $15,000 for a month, right?
Sure.
But that's how much I can make.
Yeah, which is awesome. And you know your numbers.
So, yeah.
I mean, and so it's fun where it is in Zionsville. If you guys are listening, you know, outside of the Indianapolis area, how would you describe Zionsville?
Oh, Mayberry.
Mayberry! So at this property, I mean, every time I drive by, you know, I try to text you, like, it looks good. Like, she's got a, like a swing bench.
Yep.
And she's got beautiful pillows that are right. I mean, it is like a magazine. And you can stay, and then you can walk down to Zionsville,
Right.
cobblestone streets,
Right.
have a drink, eat dinner, have a Danish, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's really
Yeah.
like pinch me.
Well, in the Village, it's weird because, again, that house had been on the market for, probably a year. Again, it was just sitting, and it was 21, so it's still, like, the market was hot, but she was ugly. And she was, like, right next to, like, a commercial building, so I thought, okay, this is, like, the best of both worlds as far as Airbnb because people tend to get a little, like, you know. So, yeah, so I was able to get a good deal on it. And, you know, I have $550 in it, but I mean, I have people want to buy it all the time. I could sell it between like $800,000 and $900,000 tomorrow. Just because now the Village is like everything else. It's just all like crazy numbers. But yeah, I mean, I have people that will either message me through Airbnb and like, will you sell? Or the people that stay there, will you sell? And I'm like, nope.
Yeah, I love it. So walk us through, Stacey, like, we have fun.
Yes.
Like, when I think of you, I immediately think of fun. Right?
Yes.
And we have a good time. And so what are I mean, you have great energy. I feel like we are like in alignment with energy, right?
We're a lot.
We're a lot. We are a lot. And yet, you know, there's a lot of people who want to like channel your energy, or they say, you know, oh, Stacey's great. Like, what would you tell them about maybe your thinking, or like, those are some pretty courageous things to do.
Yeah.
I mean, buy an ugly house, see
Right.
the vision, buy a property that's been on the market for 3 years. Like, you're doing some things that really aren't normal, right? That the norm do. So like, what would you tell somebody? What would you tell, you know, someone?
I feel like always, I think that's the entrepreneurial side of me is like always think of something different. Like, right? Like, I feel like every time I start something, I'm always like, okay, well, if everybody else is doing it this way, like, how can it be like a different way, right?
Yes.
Like, think of it a different, like, even talking to James, a coworker, and he was looking at an investment property and it had been on the market for like a day, and then there was multiple offers. I was like, go look for the ones that have been sitting. Don't compete with all these people, right? Like, go look different. Like, and so I feel like even like when I decided to like go all in and just be like a Zionsville realtor, people are like, gosh, that's risky. Or you really want to limit yourself just to Zionsville? And I'm like, why not? Like, become that expert, right? So I'm just always trying to think of like something that's like different than what everybody else is already doing, right?
Yes.
That's what I always tell my kids, like, don't do what everybody else is doing. Fine, do it differently. Do it your way.
So you have some athletes.
I do.
I love it. I'm like, which kid's in the paper, right? I mean, I still love names and papers. I guess that's recognition oriented. What do you tell, like, you are such a good friend to your kids. Aww. You really are. And you have fun with them. I mean, you taught me to do that tortilla. What is that thing? I mean, you like slap a tortilla.
Face, yes.
I mean, you have fun with them.
Yes.
And like, I appreciate you because you help me have more fun with my kids. And like, that's the stuff that they're going to remember. Like, we were laughing hysterically because I let them hit me with the tortilla, So walk us through, like, stay in the house when you're with the kids. Yeah. Like, talk to us about, like, being a mom. Like, what are some things that maybe you do that maybe other people, you may think that they don't do?
Yeah. Well, I'm just, again, we're going to be honest here. Yes. I'm going through a divorce, right?
Yes.
So that's like a whole nother podcast.
Yes.
But I think it also makes you think more about your family and your kiddos and like how important they are to you.
Yes.
Right? So it's spending time with them and it's like trying to get them in the car. I think as I've had older kids now, like, it's harder to get them one-on-one because you're not driving them around and you can't corner them in the car as easily. But like at home, like just even if it's like everybody watching a sporting event together or like whatever, eating dinner or like, we all ate dinner together last night. Like just trying to do those things. My daughter, I feel like Taylor and I are like, I mean, she's my best friend. Like
2P. I mean, it's really 3 pods because it's really your mom.
Yes.
You and Taylor.
Yes.
I mean, y'all are just like
thick.
Thick.
Yeah.
And you have each other. Yeah, you guys
and
are best friends.
She's so like wise beyond her years. She's so mature. I mean, she golfs. And
she's an amazing golfer.
I know. That I will admit. Like, she freaking is amazing.
She is amazing. What did she shoot? 70?
Well, last night she just tied for the Carmel, like the something invitational 69, tied for first last night. Mm-hmm.
What? Are you? She's amazing. So that's been
3
so
under.
fun.
3 under.
That's amazing.
It is
and
amazing.
how young is she?
She's 14.
14. Oh, I love it.
She's amazing.
So walk us through. Okay, so one-on-one time.
Yes.
I mean, I totally agree, and I maybe have even shared this with you. Like, I feel like one-on-one time with your kids. Even if it's like Chick-fil-A or in the car or on the porch or like just those moments, I feel like fix everything. I mean, they're better than counseling appointments. They're better than taking your kids to a doctor. I mean, I really do.
Right.
And I even have that like in my goals, like one-on-one, like, I don't know if you know this or not. This would be something fun. For years I've taught other people about business goals and personal goals and things like that. And one morning I wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm like, what am I doing? I have never taken each of my kids out and asked them what they want for this year.
Yeah.
And so I did it. I started with Luke, my youngest, and I said, where do you want to go to eat? And I just had my legal pad and I was like, what do you want? What do you want this year? And at the time, I think he was 8. And he had a whole list. I mean, it was something simple like more slumber parties, more time with the dogs, like skiing and whatever it was. So I've done that with each of them.
Right.
And I save it. And they accomplish stuff. Like one of Noah's was like, okay, make varsity with Carmel, right?
Which is huge.
Yes. Right? And so they each have stuff. So that's just like a little tidbit. I'll put it in the notes. And would you mind if we put the link for them to book in your notes too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
and
good.
we can, like, I have, like, before and after pictures we could share, like, because I feel like the renovation part is, like, part of my, like, love language. I love that part of it. I love a project.
Yes.
So.
You do love a good project. So what else would you want to share with anyone who's listening?
Well, right now I'm like doing another little, like, again, outside the box type of thing.
Yeah.
I was approached by the contractor that actually did live.
Yes.
And he's wanting to kind of go off into the sunset and he's ready to retire. And the guys his crew, they were like, what about Stacy? And I was like, he called me and I was like, me?
You take care of people.
So they were like, would she want to take, and I've gotten them so much business since they did
Sure.
Live, and I kept referring them business. So I think that was part of it. Like I could bring them business, and it's a bunch of men. They need some scheduling and they need some organization. And so but I was like, I love construction. I think I would love being in that field. And more women are getting into
100%. I was just at the Baggy Builders Association of Greater Indianapolis Women's Build, and there's probably over 300 individual women that were at this event. And again, in my brain, I thought it was going to be like super intimate and that everybody was going to be a builder.
Right.
And that wasn't really the case. There's a need for female leadership in building. Like, I'm excited.
I'm excited. I'm
really
excited
am. For you. And you take care of people. Like, people remember that. And I can just see you showing up on the site and, knowing about people's names and knowing about their family and giving them some tips and, you know what I mean, taking care of them. Yeah. People remember that. Like, what a testimony to you, Stacey, that the employees and the workers wanted you to own the company.
I know. I think that's awesome. And just they were like, well, you can, talk to the clients. Like, they don't want to do that part. They just want to do their job, but they want to do it more efficiently and more whatever. But, and they're my people. That's my people. And I always tell my kids, it takes everybody to make the world go round. I always said, the trash picker upper guy. I'm always just think if we didn't have that person to do that job, then what, right? So he's important. So we're going to respect him. We're going to give him water. We're going to whatever, right? Yes. The mailman, the UPS John, I know all my people, right?
Yes.
So I think that's important because they're all important to make this all work.
Yes. So My Life's Purpose Coaching, you're one of the biggest cheerleaders of that. Yes. And kind of walk us through how what's been our relationship from a coaching perspective?
I think it's evolved, obviously. I think it evolved from the beginning, just okay, future self and making me cry. You're kind of like Oprah.
That's a massive compliment, by the way. Hashtag kind of like Oprah. Love that.
Like to make people cry. Which means you're getting somewhere, right? Yes.
Which means we're getting somewhere.
So I think it started there to then business. I still have what was it called? The Disney would we do?
Oh yeah, we
did. And that had my Airbnbs on it and it had all these other little avenues. And Angie, who works with me, we went through it the other day. She's like, you've almost done all of these.
I did. I just did a new one.
Yeah.
So, great resource is Walt Disney, and you can Google it or we can put it in the slides too. But Walt Disney, he had this huge vision, and he actually passed away before it came to fruition. And his brother took the vision and made everything happen.
Yeah.
And so the concept is do your Disney. So Stacey's got her Disney, or some people call it opportunity maps. But the first one I did had 3 circles.
Right.
Right? And then the next one, it had 30 circles.
Right.
Right? And now I'm back to 12. And yet it's the 12 stuff for the people that are most important to me, right? So you still have that.
Yes, I still have that.
I
know. But you always push people to think bigger, right? Think bigger, and then you're always what else? What else? What else? And I'm I don't know. I don't know what else. But I think, and then, so from a business and then as a friendship and then, going through just life shit. Sorry, can I cuss?
Yes, yeah, you can. We don't have any brand.
Okay, good.
The brand is us.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So I think, that evolves from all of it and it all works together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, my intention is that we will always be open and authentic and practice how we love other people with ourselves, right? And I'm so appreciative to you. You are famous. On Sunday, you were on the Colts game. This woman was across sports, everything, in a beautiful blue. You had that Kentucky blue sweater on. and your phone blew up, and I'm like,
did.
Stacy, and you're my Zestel model,
Yeah,
my
Zestel.
wellness drink, my little side thing about my wellness drink,
Yes.
and yeah, we're gonna just do some fun things and have fun and great energy, and I'm so proud of you. And I'm proud to be in business with you and be friends with you and all that jazz. So,
You too.
all right,
Yay.
that's enough.